Hello Leo, and welcome to your monthly horoscope for June for the Sun or the Ascendant. I'm going to give you the main features to look out for. Please stay with me. I will then go deeper to give you in detail all the key influences for your sign in particular. Now, one thing to tell you about is, have you ever considered that your ruler, the Sun, never goes into retrograde? That's nice, isn't it? And also the moon, also known actually rather as a luminary rather than a planet in technical astrology, that of course never goes retrograde either. But this is the story of a month of retrogrades, because the month begins with Mercury in a retrograde in your sector of success. The great news is that Mercury emerges from that on the 3rd, goes direct then, and then on the 4th comes out of shadow. But Venus, Uranus and the North Node are all in your sector of success. So although the Sun at the beginning of this month is in your sector of friendships and networks and your future destiny, there may be a real opportunity to use your desires to elevate your profile and your reach and the potential for success in your situation this month. The other big thing to tell you about is that Mars is in its home zone of Aries alongside Jupiter, the planet of luck, as this month begins. So that's an awesome combination in your 9th house, in your sister fire triplicity sign of Aries. That's all about expansion. How good is that? But going back to those retrogrades, yes, of course, we've got Saturn on the 4th, Neptune on the 28th. We already have Pluto in retrograde. Please stay with me as I go through all of this in finer detail. But the big news for this month, I feel, for your sign, is that your communicational skills are really coming into focus, particularly as Mercury goes back into Gemini on the 13th, followed by Venus on the 23rd. So future hopes are definitely coming into focus, but I need to tell you about that full moon because it is squaring up with the dreamy influences of Neptune, which can be tricky. Now, if you'd like to ascend above this Zodiac broadcast and gain much greater clarity for your personal journey, if you give me 3 pieces of birth data, time, date, place, I can give you a roadmap that you can use to guide you for the rest of your life. Together with this, in my special package, you can get a 12-month forecast and all of this for 30% off. Please see the link below. I'm nearly at that 100,000 mark in terms of subs. All the health problems I've had over the years have really been a bit of an inhibition in terms to getting to this point quicker. You can tell I've got a cold now, sorry for that. But if you've yet to subscribe, please click or tap on the bell notification symbol. But your in-depth forecast is coming next. So Leo, your monthly forecast for June sees that wonderful cascade of energy coming from the sign of Gemini, which for you is very positive. This is about illuminating your message with clear communications, interacting with others. But that plethora of energy that you have, that gathering in the sign of Taurus, is very much your role in life. Have you noticed, certainly in the UK, people say if they meet you, "What do you do?" Now what they really mean is, what do you do for a living? And it's an interesting one when you're an astrologer, that's for sure. But I feel what you do, the main purpose of your life, the thing that gives you the greatest sense of satisfaction, or the thing you feel most passionate about, can really be defined much more clearly on the back of this month's events. But because Mars and Jupiter combining in a very adventurous part of your situation, if you have felt in some way that COVID, your personal circumstances, the cost of living crisis as well, all these issues have in some way stopped you from really being quite as buccaneering and daring as you know you can be, I think you have a great opportunity this month to get back on the front foot. And because Mars and Jupiter are in a conjunction the first 4 days, that's going to give you a lot of conviction. So even if you're a Leo who tends to run on the cautious side, as some Leos definitely do, because you're a fixed sign, so you don't necessarily give up what you've got very easily. But I feel that if there is something that you feel inspired about, then that combination can make you much more daring as we break into this month. Because Mercury in retrograde is in the sector of success or work, maybe as it unravels on the 3rd, comes out of shadow on the 4th, there's going to be some news about an interview, an application, a property matter which can govern the 10th house in a broad way. Your connection with someone in a position of influence can be strengthened. Your charm, and few can charm like a Leo when you're really up for it, is heightened hugely around this professional arena because of the role of Venus. But Venus is also forging a semi-sextile to through the first 12 days of this month. So is it not just going to be your charm, your enthusiasm can really captivate someone, and this could also be in a romantic context. But then you might be thinking, Patrick, tell me about the Saturn retrograde. Surely that's one of the toughest periods of each year. Well, to be honest, I think you could have a point. Saturn is in your sector of relationships. So what Saturn has been doing since March 20 to August 2nd, 20, from December 17, 20 through to now, is really scrutinizing the quality of your relationships. If there is a relationship that isn't working very well in your situation, that combination of Mars and Jupiter can give you a lot of push to liberate yourself and embrace the truth. The 9th house is about truth in a very energized way, even if it means separating from something that maybe you have given a lot of input to, you've worked hard at. But if a relationship is really bumping along the bottom, then Saturn retrograde could take it out of your situation through to the October the 23rd, but equally it could bring someone into your situation who's really meaningful. Or if you really work at solving some of the challenges that may be around certain involvements, you can make progress. So please don't see Saturn retrograde as just being a solely bad thing. Saturn can reward hard work. Now, that combination between Venus and Mars is really interesting, because Venus means that in your public facing role there could be some travel. So yes, I think around work, don't be surprised if you're asked to do something that's more flexible, that's less fixed, that's a bit more fluid, and it could include travel, and that actually may be something you really enjoy. Conversely, it could be through the travel of your work or just through your international connections. You could come into contact with someone who can be very good for your career, or who you could forge some kind of rapport with. Now, the 13th is a really important day this month, because then Mercury moves back into Gemini, your sector of friendship and future forward plans, which can be clarified. But also on that day through to the 19th, the Sun starts to forge a very constructive link with Saturn. So the Sun's in your 11th house of the future, and Saturn's in your 7th house of relationships. So a relationship that works well for you, where you can still be yourself, and yet you can find points of interest and cooperation. That's the relationship that will gain traction at the heart of this month. But words are an important thing. You know, we see a lot of politicians these days sort of being quite conniving in the way that they express things, and then we find out that actually they didn't say exactly what happened. And the full moon, which occurs on the 14th, is in the sign of Sagittarius, your sister fire sign, for you, house 9, the Sun in house 3. So everyday communication and longer term, higher philosophical communication. So a conversation in the last couple of weeks of this month, but particularly around finance or some kind of deeper involvement, maybe a spiritual, maybe a psychological, as much as a romantic or sexual involvement. There could be the need to be a bit cautious around this situation in the latter part of this month. That's underlined a little bit more in a way, because when we have the second cardinal quadrant begin with the summer solstice in the northern hemisphere, winter south, but remember, astrology is a Mediterranean construct, so that's why we have the summer solstice. So the sun moves on the 21st into Cancer, which for you is the 12th house. Also, this is a water sign, and it's sensitive, and it's about reflection. You get a kind of bit of a paradoxical energy layered on top of this, because Venus moves into a very flirty area on the 23rd, joining up with Mercury. And Mercury and Venus in your 11th house is very sociable. So I guess what the solstice is saying to you, and the sun's travelling into Cancer, is it's not so much the quantity, it's the quality. And I think as a Leo, you inherently know that. So you're wanting to check out people's authenticity towards the end of this month, particularly with Saturn in that retrograde. And then on the 28th, Neptune goes retrograde in your 8th house of business, big life transformations, and that's going to be retrograde to the 4th of December. But remember, Neptune is forging a distorting influence on that full moon in the middle of this month. So fact can seem stranger than fiction in the latter part of this month, but I do feel that there can be some frivolous stuff come in with Mercury and Venus in your 11th house, but the sun being in the 12th house means that you may find, despite a few invitations, you just want to withdraw into yourself a little bit. The new moon, however, which is on the 29th in Cancer, forges a very important link with Jupiter, and it suggests, even if you have a few self-doubts or your confidence is not completely sealed together, aim high, because there's a real opportunity, even if you feel you want to wait to the time of your birthday to really launch forwards. Do the planning now. Also, Venus is in a very lucky link with Jupiter and also the new moon as the month comes to a close. And Jupiter and Venus are the two planets of fortune. What's not to like? But Mars is in a scrap with Pluto towards the end of this month. There's only so many hours in the day, and if someone tries to pin upon you some kind of obligation or responsibility that you don't want, you could react in a very frustrated way as the month closes. So I feel that you shouldn't give away your free time too easily. So sometimes in life, particularly with Jupiter in the mix, and on that very kind and sincere new moon, you could do something for a good cause, and that's very worthy, but not if it's to the point that you're actually starting to feel resentful about the amount of time that you're giving up. And that's what Mars and Pluto are reminding you. Be businesslike, even if you're being caring. So a month of opportunity for sure, particularly with that Mars combination on Jupiter. They're both in your 9th house all month, so some kind of travel is going to call out to you, I feel absolutely sure. But make sure the details of any travel that you have are very clear, with Neptune causing its mischief. And relationships, when don't they have to be worked out? But with Saturn retrograde, maybe you're going to unlock the solution to some situations, or come to a final position on something that you don't feel is going to work.